Welcome to On the Air with Gloria Haas, the Interdimensional Intuitive, and thank you for being here. Before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors.
You wake up, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. A feeling of the strange blankets you in dread. A figure stands beside you and vanishes before you can make it out. It's 3:43 a.m. again. Why does this keep happening to me? Follow as long as I, Tim Caney, share my experiences with the strange and paranormal in my first book and memoir, 3:43 a.m. Awakenings of an Experiencer, available on Kindle and Amazon today.
Please check out the affiliate links in the description. The views and opinions expressed in this show or comments on this channel are those of the guests, sponsors, or authors, and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this show or channel's broadcaster. All information, content, and material of this show or channel is for informational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to serve as a substitute for consultation, diagnosis, and/or medical treatment of a qualified physician or healthcare provider. Also, the content is not intended to be treated as legal advice, nor is any attorney-client relationship created therein. All material in this show, video or audio, is the intellectual property of Gloria Haas. Books, images, or other suggested media is used by permission or endorsement through Gloria Haas by the guests, speakers, or sponsors of the show. This video and audio were produced in its whole by Gloria Haas and is intellectual property of her. Any unauthorized use, partial or as a whole, is strictly prohibited. On this episode, I have Brian Seech as my guest, and he is a researcher and investigator of the Unexplained and founder of two research groups, Center for Unexplained Events and Center for Cryptozoological Studies. Brian has appeared on Monsters and Mysteries in America, on Destination America, a national cable channel, was an extra in the Mothman Prophecies movie, which was filmed in Pittsburgh, and most recently he has been on Small Town Monster series, Sasquatch Unearthed, The Ridge, and Mountain State Monsters. And he has also appeared on various internet radio shows and podcasts. Brian also appears in the new YouTube series, A Paranormal Life, The Lost Tapes. Brian is a member of the Butler Organization on Research of the Unexplained. He has also co-written articles for the Creature Chronicles column in the Hancock County Courier in West Virginia from August to November of 2013. Brian also was a co-instructor for the first ever cryptozoological class at Eastern Gateway College in Steubenville, Ohio. If you had an encounter or sighting in Pennsylvania, Ohio, or West Virginia, please contact Brian at centerforcryptostudies@gmail.com. Brian is here to share with us about Mothman and other flying creatures in Ohio. Welcome, Brian.
Well, how you doing? Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you could be here. I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about Mothman and the other flying creatures.
Sure. Do you want me to start from the beginning then, I guess? It would always help, huh?
Yes.
But basically, Mothman is, we live in West Virginia now outside of Weirden, and the Mothman is our state official cryptid. Mothman is huge. They have a big conference down, and that basically it's a festival every September, I think third week in September, and they draw thousands of people down there. So Mothman is huge up in our part of the area here.
How did he get that position in West Virginia?
Well, actually, the story actually started not in Point Pleasant, in a place called Clendon, West Virginia, which is about an hour from Point Pleasant. And there were, I think, 3 grave diggers who were digging a grave, and it was during the day, and they saw this winged humanoid fly over them. Okay, that would have been on November 12th, 1966. But the official what they say is the start of the Mothman sightings happened several days later on November 15th, 1966. It happened at 12 p.m. or 12 p.m. And there was two couples, the Scarberrys and the Millettes. They were driving by an old place called the TNT North Power Plant. And during the war, the TNT area, it was used for ammo manufacturing, okay, from 42 through 1945. And it produced, and this is interesting, it produced 720,000 pounds of TNT every 24 hours. That was, I was doing research for my presentation, which I had last week, and I did not know that they produced that much TNT during the war. So for the 3 years that it was in operation, it produced that much. So basically, these two couples were driving near the North Point power plant. And as they were cresting the road right next to the plant, they see this big, winged, dark figure that looked like a humanoid. It had wings and it had red glowing eyes. So this thing went into the power plant, and they saw it, and they drove past it. And of course they said, hey, let's get out of here, right? So they drove past it, going back towards Point Pleasant. And this creature kept up with them. It was flying at speeds exceeding between 95 to 100 miles an hour. This creature kept up with them. It kept, this winged entity, the Mothman, was flying kind of in back of them and along the sides and even over the car, several times even touching the car. As they got into town, then when the creature saw the lights of the town is when this creature just veered away. So they went to the sheriff's office, and they were upset and shaken. They told the sheriff, hey, you know, we saw this thing by the TNT power plant. So the sheriff followed them, and they went back out. Now, they were scared. Of course, they didn't want to go back out and see this thing. But they went back out, and they didn't see anything then. But what happened from that sighting until December 15th, 1967, a period of about 13 months, John Keel, who was a writer, and he wrote the Mothman Prophecies. He claimed there was over 100 sightings in the local area and across the river, Ohio River, in a place called Gallipolis. Over 100 sightings of this creature.
Wow.
And that became the Mothman legend. It was named the Mothman because at the time, Batman had a foe, a villain, in the comic book called the Mothman. So it kind of just stuck. It was a flying humanoid type creature, and it just stuck. They just dubbed it the Mothman. At first, they called it a big bird, though. A lot of the earlier sightings, if you look at some of the newspaper clippings and articles, they mention a big bird.
Wow. I wonder.
It was more humanoid because its head was actually right on its body. Okay. And it had the big wings, and it was grayish in color. And one of the eyewitnesses, who I'll talk about in a little bit, actually saw it really up close and saw feathers. But everybody said it was the eyes. They said it was the red piercing eyes, which was the most notable part about this creature. So you can picture something about 6 feet tall, and there are drawings of this out there on the internet. If you look under Linda Scarberry's photo, you can actually see a drawing of this creature. There is a big Mothman statue now in the middle of town, but it really looks nothing like what the Mothman. That one looked a lot more humanoid. And if you see the drawing, it was semi-humanoid, but it was also had features of a bird.
I wonder if there was more than one, or if it's just the one that people have seen.
They believe it was only one creature.
Be interesting to, if we could ever find out, which I doubt, is where did it actually start from? Do people also believe it's possible that it could be a species from another planet, or something that has been here but people haven't seen? Because I'm sure there's a lot of unclassified, animals and reptiles and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories about what the creature actually was. And before I go into that, and I told you that I had talked to several eyewitnesses, and the best one was Marcella Bennett. And this took place, I think, the night after the initial sighting, and it took place in the TNT area. Her daughter She was a young baby then, and her brother went to go visit her sister. And as they were coming out of the house, they looked up and they saw these bright lights in the sky. Okay. And Marcella just kept going towards the car. And when she got to the car, she was fiddling with her key. She had her daughter in her arm. And as she looked down she was putting the key in, the keys in the keyhole of the car. She saw these, she said that they were gray, almost like bird legs. And as she looked up, and then she saw the rest of the creature with the red glowing eyes.
Wow.
And the big wings. So she actually slipped and fell on her child.
Oh,
and she got up, and they all ran to the door of the house, and they went inside, and this creature actually walked on the porch, at one time even kind of pushing the door in, looking in the window and pushing the door. In the meantime, they had called the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office, they were there within 10, 15 minutes. And by the time they got there, there was no Mothman there. But allegedly, when that happened, within a short period of time, because it's a small town, there was they claimed it looked like a movie drive-in with as many people that it came had wanted to see this thing, which I thought was interesting. So, but when we saw her, my wife Terry and I saw her, I think it might have been like 2003 or something like that. And she was talking with some other people, and we were there. And I asked her, I said, do you believe this thing existed? And she looked at me, and she paused, and with some of the most fearful eyes and the way she was looking, she says, don't ever let them tell you that this creature didn't exist. And she says, because it did. She paused, and then she looked at me and she said, and it's from outer space. She believed it was from outer space. So when the Mothman sightings occurred, there was a lot of other weird things happening, including multiple UFO sightings over Point Pleasant and Ohio. There were sightings of the Men in Black, and I'm sure most of your listeners have probably heard about the Men in Black. There were sightings of those, several of the men in downtown looking at people, talking with people, kind of harassing them a little bit, not necessarily threatening them, but harassing them, just watching them. And one of the people, another of the eyewitnesses who we talked to, her name is Linda Sigmund. She actually saw one of these Men in Black. She actually saw the creature very briefly after a UFO encounter. This would have been across the river, like 3 months afterwards. She saw this bright glowing object. It moved across the treetops, and it went up in the sky. And she claimed as they were driving out, this Mothman type creature, this winged entity, flew over her car. Now that was just a very quick. There's a lot more to that sighting, and it's I couldn't exactly tell you everything that happened either. She's actually speaking at a conference we're promoting on May 17th, Brooke County, West Virginia, at Brook Hills Park. So we're excited about that when she's coming. Those are two eyewitnesses. One of the other one, his name was Tom Urey, and when he saw the creature, he says it just looked like a giant bird. He says this bird circled his car several times as he was driving along the Ohio River, and then it just veered off. Now, he said he'd been there a long time. He knew all the wildlife, all the animals and stuff like that, and he said it was not a sandhill crane, which was one of the alleged explanations for what the Mothman is. Another one was he said it wasn't a giant owl. Later on, there was a giant owl killed across the river in Ohio. And you can look these up. All of these are, if you type in the information I gave you, they'll show up, including the owl that was killed. They even actually stuffed it, and also like what a sandhill crane was. But what was interesting, he went home and he told his mother, and his mom didn't see anything. But the really weird thing that happened to her is later on, like not then, but many years later, she would tell her son that after he told her about that sighting, she would have weird things happening in her house. Like her lights would go off while all the other neighbors were on. The phone would ring, and she would pick it up and answer it, and it would sound almost like a Morse code, or strange noises would come over the phone, and then she immediately hung up. But that also was one of the other strange things that happened down in Point Pleasant, there was poltergeist activity in some of the eyewitnesses' houses. There was men in black. There was UFO sightings, a military presence there too. It was a really weird time in those 13 months that all these things happened down there. So could that have been some kind of a portal area? And you talk about, could it be extraterrestrial? I think it could. It was seen for a short period, which 13 months really isn't a short period as compared to some of the cryptids, especially here in West Virginia. We have the Flatwoods Monster, the Grafton Monster. We have Vegetable Man. I mean, we have some really weird stuff here in West Virginia, and they usually only last a very short period and they're done. So this was one of the times when there was a creature seen, actually for a good period of time.
That'd be interesting. I wonder, like you said, it had to be a portal, and they probably thought it was going to be a quiet, laid-back area, and they found out differently. Even though it's laid-back, people are like, what's going on? But then I'm sure, like with Linda, I probably would have been petrified, probably would have had a heart attack and passed out right there on the spot. And you spoke about other flying creatures in Ohio. What type of flying creatures are there?
Well, our group, Center for Cryptozoological Studies, my wife and I and some other members, we research any cryptid. A cryptid is a hidden or unknown animal not recognized by science. One of the main things we do is Bigfoot, of course. I mean, Bigfoot is the king cryptid. He's everywhere. We also deal with one of the other things, Dogman. These Dogman type entities, we research those. And another thing, we call the flying creatures winged entities, basically is what we call them, okay? Creatures more human, we call them, some of them are called gargoyles, believe it or not. Everyone knows what a gargoyle is, and, you've seen the TV shows and things like that. We had some sightings. Dan Hagman from Bauer, he took some sightings in 2011 of this creature they ended up dubbing the Chikora gargoyle. And if you look that up too, you can see drawings of that online. So there was, I think, 11 sightings in a period of about a year where people were seeing this creature. This was a great creature also, and it looked like what a typical gargoyle would look like. It had a helmeted head. The head almost looked like someone wearing one of those aerodynamic bicycles. And this creature was about 8 feet tall, and it had wraparound wings. We investigated one of the first sightings with Dan. A gentleman was riding home on his motorcycle, and he sees this creature standing next to one of these yellow signs. And when it saw the gentleman, it took 3 steps across this road, and it disappeared in the woods. Now, we measured from berm to berm where this creature was sighted, and it was 33 feet. So basically, this creature had about 11-foot stride to cross that road in 3 steps, and that was pretty impressive. There was other eyewitness sightings of it. Then they kind of stopped there as far as in Chikora, but we've done one in Allegheny County. I'm trying to think here. One in Ohio, there's one in Ohio, and there was also one in in Pennsylvania, Allentown, where these 2 couples were coming home late at night from a drive-in movie, and they took a shortcut, and it was a dusty road, old dirt dusty road, and this creature was standing on the left-hand side of the road, and it took several steps to the other side of the road. And what's interesting is this creature lifted his wings, okay, and it happened in several of the other Mothman sightings. It lifted his wings up, and they said it didn't flap. It lifted its wings, and it shot straight up in the air, and then they didn't see it. Now, again, that's happened in several sightings where, most birds and stuff, they got to flap to get up there, to get up in the sky, and this thing just shot straight up in the air. So we thought that was, really interesting. Another one in Allegheny County of a creature sitting in the nap of a tree. One in Lawrence County, which it actually looked like Count Chocula with the head. It was kind of funny. The guy drew it, and it had this blue head. I'm trying to think. And I know that there was others too that we've taken. And if you look all across the country, even back years ago, they had the Houston Batman in the 70s. They called it the Houston Batman. These winged creatures were seen around the world. Chernobyl, before it melted down, the Friedberg mine in Germany, they saw this winged creature, and it ran into the mine, and later on that mine collapsed. There's another one. I think it's called the Xiaxan Dam in China. People had seen this winged entity type creature on the dam, and several days later it busted and flooded and killed a bunch of people in the town below. So some people think all these winged entities per se, they're a harbinger of doom. Like when you see this creature, death happens and bad things happen. So even in Point Pleasant, which, let me look up the date here, okay? This happened, and the date here, December 15th, 1967. First sighting, official sighting of the Mothman, December 15th, 1966.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically what happened is the Silver Bridge, it was an old suspension bridge, okay? It was built in the 1928. And it was built at the time for cars that were smaller and lighter, okay? So this particular night, it was, December 15th, 10 days before Christmas. It was about 5 o'clock or so. And the light wasn't working properly to go onto the bridge. And unfortunately, the bridge had an I-beam, an I-bar that had a crack in it, and it busted. And the bridge just toppled like dominoes, like in 20 seconds, sending cars into the river. And there was 46 deaths.
Wow.
And some people allegedly someone had maybe seen the Mothman that later on in the day on the bridge. Nobody can confirm that. But they tried to put sightings of the Mothman with the bridge disaster. And we don't know. But some of these other winged entities were seen across the country before some bad things happened. So are they, or is it just a connection that people are bringing? We don't know. All the sightings that we took, PA, Ohio, even down here in West Virginia, we've been down here now about 3.5 years. We moved down to Weirton, and we've received some reports down here too of these winged creatures. We don't know what they are. We know that when people see them, they're scared. The disbelief when they see these things. Another interesting fact of some of these creatures is the leg structure. Their legs seem to be bent backwards, and several of the eyewitness encounters that we've got in the tri-state area here, their legs, it's especially in the Chikora gargoyle and the Allentown one. If you put both of those drawings together, they're the same thing. One happened in 2011, the other happened in 93, I think. Their legs are bent backwards, and we found out too there was another sighting of a winged cryptid down in Puerto Rico. I guess there was a guy. It was at night, and he was a night watchman at this little facility. He sees this creature, and he says it was walking, and he said the legs were bent backward. He says, and this is really interesting. He said it walked like a chicken. Now you know how chickens walk; where they have their really weird. Well, the same people who saw this Allentown creature walk across the road, what did they say? It walked like a chicken. So when you put little pieces together from different eyewitnesses over different decades, even different locations, there's something to that. And one of the interesting things that we found, and we try to point out anytime we give a presentation, that these creatures, and I'm not an expert on any leg locomotion or anatomy. I guess I should talk to some people who are, and to see how legs that are bent backwards can support a big structure with wings, most of them being wraparound wings. So it's interesting.
Well, I know that it would make sense for its legs to be like a chicken, because if it takes off in the air, it can fold its legs up to, its body for more aerodynamic.
Yes.
And well, if you look at our feet as humans, how small they are, and look at how much weight they can bear, yes. I'm not surprised that with Mothman or the other creatures like the gargoyle, their feet wouldn't be supportive in the same manner. It's something, like you said, that cannot be explained, but it happens.
Yeah.
It's the way they were created.
And what we always do is we try to have our eyewitnesses draw what they've seen. And we have some pretty good drawings of some of the things that we're seeing. And some of them are similar. Other researchers try to do the same thing, because a drawing is a window into their soul. And, we can't see what they've seen, but if they draw what they've seen and you get the report and you interview them, a lot of things add up. So we're always trying to make correlations, connections with with different eyewitnesses, different cryptids, different their habits, what they do, where they're seen, the time, things like that. There's a lot of things that go into it. But the winged cryptids are definitely one of the stranger things that we've done. Now, honest to God, it's a lot of it doesn't make sense, but a lot of them could be interdimensional creatures. Some of them could be extraterrestrial, and I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to do. Now, our first group, which we still have today, it was called Q, Center for Unexplained Events, and we still take occasionally. We did then. We were both my wife Terry and I were both in MUFON, and we took UFO sightings. And we have a good friend, Fred Saluga. He's a state director of West Virginia. He was in Pennsylvania, and he still takes a lot of UFO sightings. So yeah, could these creatures be from? Yeah, I don't think that's a stretch.
Like you said, they're interdimensional, so they could go across the different dimensions and be seen at different times. And they may use that as travel instead of strictly flying. It's like you said, a portal. They can go in on one side on a dimension and come out a portal on another. They know where they're headed.
Yeah, and again, like we don't know the hows and whys, how they can do it. Is it just a temporal thing? A portal can open. Can they cause them? We don't know. Like even with Bigfoot, we research all the cryptids that we research. We start off by researching them as flesh and blood creatures, and we tell people that because cryptozoology wants they want a specimen. They want something on the table that they can say, okay, this is a Bigfoot. He's on the table, or you capture one. This is a real life animal. That's what they want. That's what you need. We're going to need one of these creatures, cryptids, whatever, caught or, maybe found dead. We don't want any of these creatures killed. We're not out hunting them. All the people we deal with, no one's out hunting them. Now, there are some groups, I guess, that want them killed to prove it, but we're not one of them. So.
That's good. Do you think you and your wife, Terry, might be bold enough to even want to go to see and find a Mothman or a Bigfoot?
What do you think about that? She goes, you can. She's my Scully. We call ourselves we used to call ourselves the Mulder and Scully of Beaver County where we lived. And we actually our library upstairs, we call it the S files for Seech files. So we kind of I would want to see one of these. I've never seen anything. I've never seen a cryptid. That might be one of the things you're going to ask. Never seen any cryptid. We've seen several UFOs. I've seen shadow figures. We've had disembodied steps come down when we were at a church up in Erie. So yeah, we've seen some weird things, but we've never seen any kind of cryptids, and that's actually like one of my favorites. And I've never seen anything. We've heard some strange noises. Now we believe we've heard the Ohio howl in Beaver Creek State Park, which is an alleged Bigfoot call. So, and we've possibly been hit by infrasound at Salt Fork State Park. But as far as actually seeing anything, I mean, the favorite thing that we like, we haven't seen, unfortunately. Not yet. Hopefully once we see it, maybe we can retire off into sunset somewhere.
Well, it's not, out of the question. Mm-hmm. You never know what you're going to see and where you're going to see it.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
Well, our group is we're always looking for reports of any of these strange creatures. Although we do mainly, PA, Ohio, West Virginia. We even like, hey, out there in Arizona, if anyone has seen like one of these winged cryptids, any of these winged entities, please, you can contact us by going on centerforcryptostudies at gmail.com. Look me up on Facebook, Brian Seech on Facebook. Send me a message. We also have our two group sites on Facebook. And one is Center for Unexplained Events, and the other is Center for Cryptozoological Studies. They're both on there. You can look us up, look up our names. We've been on a lot of podcasts. I've been on a lot of podcasts. Our lifeblood is trying to get these reports and talk to the people and hopefully go into some of these areas. We consider it, what we do is like putting pieces of a puzzle together. And just like the thing with the legs, how the thing walks like a chicken. Someone in Puerto Rico, someone in Pennsylvania, years and miles apart, are describing the same locomotion. That's pretty, to us, that's pretty impressive. And that's what a lot of these researchers do. You're looking for patterns. You're looking for what these creatures do. And, hopefully you get more sightings of a creature, an initial creature. Hey, I saw that too. We don't give out names. And we actually had it happen one time where two people saw a white Bigfoot, one in Pennsylvania, one in Ohio, and they both wanted to meet each other. So I got permission from both people, and they actually met each other, and they described seeing the same creature that was basically a white Bigfoot. So in certain cases like that, we know if both eyewitnesses agree, then we can arrange a meeting. And sometimes it's like therapy to people. You know, when somebody says, "Hey, I saw this wolf-like creature look like a werewolf run across the road," who do they tell? They tell people like us, because we'll listen to them. We'll try to get their drawings. We'll try to maybe even go out to the area. We're not thinking they're crazy. If anything, you know, they're thinking we're crazy for studying all this stuff. So, yeah, I think people would like to have closure. They want to hear, they want their story to be out, but you just can't, you know, "Hey, I was driving home. I seen this giant ape run across the road." Who do you have to almost tell a researcher, you know, sometimes even your own family's not going to believe you. A lot of times when we give presentations, we'll say, "Hey, did anybody here see anything?" Nobody puts their hand up, but afterwards they'll come up and say, "Hey," they were too embarrassed even to put their hand up amongst other people who are interested in and who probably have had sightings, but they don't want to come to us and fill out a short form, and then we call them or interview them or meet with them. And we have a very long form, like, or 46 questions on the creatures. Yeah, we try to do our due diligence, and we work with other groups, and it's been a passion. We've done it for actually 39 years for Q, and next year will be our 40th anniversary for the group. So
That's wonderful. That really is. And for anybody who wants to be able to contact Brian, I will have those links in the description of this episode.
Yeah, we appreciate anybody. Again, it doesn't matter where, anyone listening to this. I know you probably have a wide audience out there. Mm-hmm. Anybody, we'd like to hear your sighting. And again, no names are ever used. It's more about what you're seeing, so we can piece it together what other people have seen. And we do a lot of research on book research too. A lot of phone interviews. Sometimes I'll be on with some people, you know, for a long time, and it never really stops. I mean, even in our downtime, we might be out at the flea market looking for books and things like that. So what we do, like, it's a year-round thing, and it's been going on for 39 years.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And thank you. And thank you to the audience. And like Brian said, if you've had any sightings, please contact him. We're always looking for scary stories. So please send us your ghost stories to be read on the show at gloriahas5@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Hi, everyone. I have an amazing birthday goal. I am aiming for 3,600 followers by my 69th birthday at the end of June. Come and join the ride. Help make my birthday a great one. Hi, I'm Gloria Haas, and this is a movie review on Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. The movie starts out with an engrossing scene that I completely was absorbed into. Then the unexpected part comes where people jump, and yes, I jumped because I was so engrossed into what was going on. The next scene is just as engrossing, but more on the fun side. This movie continues along in true Ghostbuster fashion. It was good to see some actors from the original Ghostbusters movie like Annie Potts, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, William Atherton, and Bill Murray. Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things played a good teenage son, and Mackenzie Grace was great as Phoebe, who was a rebellious teenager. Then the strangeness began, along with the daughter befriending a ghost. Was the ghost, who was played by Emily Aline Lind, really friendly or on the dark side? Phoebe found out how her actions caused repercussions and sets out to help in whatever way she could. In one of the scenes, the characters go to get help from someone who works at the library, which was in the original movie. This person takes them to the old library down into a basement they didn't know existed. This set reminds me of what was used in the series, The Librarians. Will you enjoy this movie like I did? There's only one way to find out, and that is to watch it yourself and take note that the credits are not the end of the movie. There's more to follow. This movie does not disappoint, and I give Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 10 candles. If you would like to be notified by email of when the next video comes out, please send me an email, and the email is listed in the description. And I promise I won't spam you with other things. You will just get notifications that the show is out. So I won't be sending interim information out, like getting 3 or 4 messages a week. 4 shows of On the Air with Gloria Haas and 5th show of Monthly Predictions. So that's 5 emails a month. So I hope to hear from you.